Hi everybody, Jon Friedberg here, back at the Gavin Smith household for part 2 of sort of our little out of the studio event here, Stacking Chips. I'm here with my man Gavin Smith.
Why are you called Poker Chip?
Poker Trip.
Oh, Poker Trip. Why? Do you
That's my online name.
You go on a lot of poker trips?
No, I don't. It's a long story. Tune into episode 1 if you want to know why. Anyway, so we're here over at Gavin's place, hanging out, just had a little barbecue, shooting some pool, playing some Wii bowling, having some steaks. Phil Helmuth just took off. He was here for a little while too.
Took my car.
Took your car?
I know, it's scary, isn't it?
I don't know. I hope he has insurance. Hope you have insurance. I don't know.
He just won $600,000. He can afford my car.
Yeah, I'm sure he won. $600,000 is probably a fraction of what he's going to make off of this thing. In fact, he said himself he's hoping to get $10 million out of it.
$10 million?
Oh, what's what he's saying? But you know, I'm sure he knows all the CEOs from all the major corporate American companies are watching this show, so that's sort of him priming them for before he hits.
All you guys that are watching Stacking Chips, Phil Helmuth is too expensive. Go for the guys that come second in their events, or third, perhaps.
That's right. So I've talked a lot about the $1,500 pot limit hold'em event that I finished third in. Gavin here actually came in second, and I always forget the guy's name who won it.
Michael Spiegel.
Yes, Michael Spiegel won it. Anyway, so Gavin, I had a great time playing with you, and it should make for some good TV coverage. You and I had a lot of table talk there, a lot of prop betting going on and other things, which I lost all of them to you. But I did pay on the spot.
That was awesome. The one was awesome. I thought it was... This shows how bad both John and I are at math, is that he makes this bet that this one hand is worse than what I think is the best hand. And, I think it's really close, but I think I have the best of it, so I make the bet.
Yeah.
And he thinks that his hand is the best. So we're both idiots, because we go there, and the hand that I thought had slightly the best, and then he thought had the worst, had 60% winner.
Yeah, it was a huge hit. The funny thing is, you and I walked away from the table over to the media center, while the other two guys, Spiegel and Billy, were like in an all-in pot. Camera crews left the table when those guys were all in to follow us over to check out our prop betting. So that was pretty funny. That should make for some good TV. Then of course I walked back in there when their heads up, and I got $100,000 in cash and peel off $500 and pay Gavin right out there. But I shouldn't have said that, because now that totally kills the ratings on ESPN, because now everyone's going to expect it. But anyway, so I'm here with Gavin. He and I we played quite a bit late in day 1. And then we didn't play much in day 2 until we were at the final table. Right. For those of you who don't know, they consolidate at the final 10 for the final table, but they actually film the final 9. So I don't think you and I played together at all in day 2 until we were at the final 10 players, when you were seated to my left.
I think we played very, very little. I think we played maybe about 20 minutes before they got down to 3 tables, when they redrew at 3 tables. I think you and I were together, but it was very briefly, and we were never involved in a pot together.
Right. So when it came down, and in day 1, I don't think you and I played in a pot together either, really. But when we got down to 10-handed, you were way short, or maybe right before we got down to 10-handed, you had 40 or 50,000. And then in the last 30 minutes or hour of the day or something, you ran it up to $500K, and you were the chip leader.
Yeah, it got pretty crazy. Right before, when we were down to 12-handed, I had a hand that was actually a pretty strange hand for me, that I would almost never lay down. I had 119,000 chips. The blinds were 6 and 12,000, and I opened for 39,000. And I had ace queen. And a friend from mine back home, Tony B, potted me, and it folded back to me. And now the pot's now laying. I had 80,000 left. And the pot has 178,000 in it, so I'm getting a little over 2 to 1. So it's pretty much an instant call. It's pretty much an obvious call, especially for a hand like ace queen, where you're squashing all the lower pairs than you. Well, not squashing, but in terms of pot odds, you're squashing all that.
Right.
And you're not in that bad a shape against 2 kings. You're really not in very bad shape unless the guy's got aces. And I'm sitting there and I'm just feeling. I'm like, you know what? I know I can come back from 80,000. I know I can. And it just doesn't feel right to me. And maybe a lot of that's attributed to Phil. I've been talking to Phil a lot. Phil and I have been hanging out a bit over the start of the World Series, and he's always big on these huge laydowns and on how you can come back and everything. So maybe I owe something to him. But I ended up I threw the ace queen away face up, and I got a funny look from Tony. And when he gave me the funny look, I go, yeah, I know I'm right, buddy. I know I was right. Don't give me confidence. I said, you guys don't ever give me confidence. So then we went on, and I started running up, and Tony ended up going out in either 12th or 11th. And later on, when I met up with him afterwards, he was like, "Dude, I can't believe you threw that away. I had aces." And he told me he had aces, so I was like, "Yeah, that's it." But then, so now I got some chips together a little bit, and then the chip leader at the time was William Hill, and I kind of like goaded him a little bit. I'm like, Billy, honestly, you got a lot of chips, man. You got great final table chips, man. Maybe you should go to sleep. Maybe I ought to go to bed now and just come back tomorrow and play the final table. And he kind of says that, and then the next thing you know, I pick up 2 jacks, and he decides he wants to try to make me throw 2 jacks away when he had 2 sevens. And
I remember that you made a raise. I think you potted it on the button. It was late position, folded to you. You potted it. He repotted you from the blinds. And I don't remember if that put you all in or if you still had more.
I had an additional 81,000.
That's right.
And so I was able to move in, and he had to call the 81,000 more, and he did. And I had the 2 jacks and the 2 sevens, and I think the minute he did it, he realized he'd made a mistake, because he'd done this play out of the blind. So many people make this mistake. This is like a really common mistake in big bet poker, in pot limit and in no limit poker, where people repot you with 2 sevens, and then if you ever get re-raised, then you're screwed. So you're putting all this money in where now you absolutely have to call, because now you're getting the right price, but you've put all this money in with zero information, hoping I'm on a steal. In which case, it doesn't matter if you have 2 sevens or if you have 10-4 offsuit. You can have anything you want there. And people make that mistake time and time again. You always see these races with small pair versus big pair, because people out of position decide they think they need to repot to try to re-steal. I mean, people.
So what do you think the right way to play that is?
I think you got 2 right ways. I think flat calling and trusting your instincts on the flop and deciding to play on the flop poker instead of before the flop poker, or there's nothing entirely wrong with just mucking it and saying, you know what, this is one of the better players at the table. I don't need to attack him out of position. Mm-hmm. I can muck this hand, and I can raise 10-8 offsuit, 1 off the button to steal the blinds and get the same amount of chips type thing and be in the same sort of spot. I mean, too many people are willing to, out of position, play huge pots with medium pairs, and it's death. It is complete death in Hold'em.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, but you know what? It really seems that a lot of the younger generation of players, the only game that they know, what they learned how to play, is no limit Hold'em, right? Tournament style no limit Hold'em, and all it really takes. I mean, there's not necessarily a lot of post flop play in no limit tournaments. I mean, you can be a terrible post flop player, but still win a no limit event, right? So I think a lot of the mindset for these younger guys, like Billy is an online player, William, whatever you want to call him, they just want to get all their chips in pre-flop and just hope for the best. Whereas you're an excellent post-flop player. So it's scary for a lot of these guys to play a pot against you. You can just call the flop, because he knows if he doesn't flop, he's going to get outplayed there.
I don't know necessarily about that, because you see, one thing I thought about, and I watched him a lot, this Billy Hill, and he plays under Mad Hatter online, and I really was very, very impressed. I thought he was a really, truly gifted player. I think
he's a great player.
I think he's got a ton of talent and a ton of potential. So I think if he does think, for whatever reason, that I was going to outplay him, I think he's underestimated himself. But the other thing is, when you say you can play all pre-flop poker and win a tournament, well, that's true, but you can play all lucky poker and win a tournament. You could play all blind poker and win a tournament. Theoretically, you could do that. That doesn't mean it's the right way to play. It doesn't mean it's the right way to learn. And if you're looking to be, a great player, then you have to learn the fundamentals that are going to make you a great player and make you be able to compete against the best people in the world. And for sure, the best way to compete against the best players in the world is not to go into a shove fest pre-flop, because eventually they're just going to get you. Eventually, position's going to catch up. Them having a hand's going to catch up. Whatever's going to catch up. So you just don't want to be the guy that's playing the guessing game out of position all the time. You could raise them when you have position with like Jack 7 offsuit all day long and be in so much better shape than repotting it with 2 10s out of the blinds.
Right.
So I mean,
yeah, I agree. I mean, I will say though, and the way the situation played out, if I'm in Billy's seat there, I probably make the same play, because if you remember, we were 10-handed. You were, he had a big stack. You open a lot of pots. You were in late position. I mean, all the signs pointed to the fact that you were on a steal there on your first race. And there's a lot riding on players, especially players that have endorsement money coming at a final table. So in our event, 9th place only paid $14,000. Certainly, you're making some additional bonus money for being on TV, as was I. So there's a lot of pressure there, and I don't know how much how much that factors into your decisions. But certainly, with only $14,000 paying out 9th spot, and obviously making quite a bit more than that to finish in 9th. I'm sorry. 10th place was, I don't know, $10,000 or something, and then 9th place is $14,000, but plus you have endorsement bonus money on top of that. So essentially, you're going from like $10,000 to a much higher number there in one spot.
Well, this might make me the dumbest living human. It's entirely possible. I mean, I've contended for that title before, but when we were 10-handed, there's two things that I for sure did not know. In fact, after the tournament was over, one of them I didn't know. But there's two things I did not know when we were 10-handed. One was I didn't know what 9th or 10th paid. Okay. And two, I didn't know how much endorsement money I was getting paid. So, I mean, I think that's a lot to do with gauging your opponents and figuring out what's going on. And I mean, I don't know. I mean, I've been around a little bit, and I'm kind of loud, and I think my reputation's fairly out there. I think people ought to understand that, the TV bubble or the money bubble or any bubble or anything like that doesn't change what I'm going to do. I'm just going to play my game, and if I bubble, I bubble. I don't care. So I don't know. I mean, I don't think it was a terrible play. Don't get me wrong. I mean, he did have a hand. He had 2 7s, and I don't have to have a hand that can even call a re-raise. But all I'm saying is that in that spot, 2 7s, people look down and they say, like, I got 7s, I got a re-raise. But they look down and they say, I got 9-5 offsuit, I have to fold. Mm-hmm. And what they don't understand is if your decisions are between folding and re-raising, 7s and 9-5 off are essentially the same hand.
Right.
And that's the point I'm trying to get across is there's really no difference to the hands if those are your only two decisions.
If you get called or repotted, you're obviously a big dog. So it doesn't matter if you have a 9-5
so
or
your decision, if your only two decisions are folding or raising, then don't get excited because you got 7s. Because the only difference 7s are going to do is they're going to say you're pricing the call. With the 9-5 off, at least if you re-raise with the 9-5 off and I repot and you got to call 81 more, you can actually throw it away instead of 81,000. So, I mean, but I mean, I don't fault that guy. I think he played a great tournament.
So, what are your plans from here? You're off to a great start. You've obviously covered. Well, I guess with the 50K horse, have you now covered your buy-ins for the rest of the series?
Wow! Once again, you're calling me out on not being a great planner. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know how much my buy-ins are going to be. They're probably going to be in the neighborhood of 150, maybe a little more.
And that's about what you got, right?
I got paid 155, so I probably can do no worse than break even. My plans are to play. I'm going to play.
You going to play a lot of events, or are you focusing on certain games?
No, I'm going to play. I'm going to play everything I can play. In fact, I'm going to take it to a different level. When there's a 5 o'clock tournament that I enjoy, if I'm kind of close in the 12 o'clock event, I'm going to play hyper aggressive to either get a ton of chips or be able to play the 5 o'clock. So I'm going to play a lot. I'm going to play a lot of tournaments. It's the World Series. I want to win a bracelet. So I'm gonna play my ass off and then take a break at the end of it.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, you heard it straight from the horse's mouth. Gavin Smith here at his own backyard. Thanks a lot for having me over, man. The steaks were great.
You're always welcome.
Enjoyed the Wii bowling and
you guys are always welcome.
All right. Well, thanks a lot for being on the show, man. Really appreciate it. Good luck to you.